Hey, welcome to Integrated, a podcast for entrepreneurial couples who want to build a high-impact career and an exceptional partnership. I'm Jason Gaddis, one of the hosts here, and I'm CEO and founder of the Relationship School. I train coaches, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a coach, I'm an entrepreneur.
And I'm Ellen Bader, a psychotherapist, coach, and teacher. Jason and I have been facilitating transformational work for over 60 years combined. We've been married for almost 20 years and run our own businesses while raising 2 teenagers. When we're not juggling work and parenthood, we love to get out in nature as far as we can and play.
Our job here is to bring cutting-edge science, practical tools, and a deep view of how to juggle all of these things and have an awesome family, partnership, and business.
We're glad you're here.
Let's go.
Today we're talking about sharing leadership.
Yeah, and it's a big concept we could talk a lot about.
Yes, and we probably will revisit this
many times. Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah, and because you're an entrepreneurial type of person and you're up to some cool things in the world, you're in the leadership conversation a lot.
Yeah, an entrepreneurial type of couple. Really.
Yeah. And it's because one of you or both of you are leading a team, or you're leading a vision, or you're leading a family, or, right?
Yeah.
And people, I guess, don't talk about marriage as leadership.
Right.
Often.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to talk about, is why leading together, co-leading in your partnership is so essential.
Yeah, and even thinking about marriage, partnership, and family life as leadership experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to lead ourselves. We got to co-lead. We got to share things, share power, share decisions. We got to figure a lot of stuff out together.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot we could say about leadership in general and what that entails.
Yeah, and so we're going to introduce a concept here in a little bit that might be useful for you, that we think is awesome. Mm-hmm. And first, though, we got to talk about how we got there to this concept
of sharing leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll unpack like a good practice to do when you're sharing leadership. Yeah. We'll have an invitation at the end for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Ellen, walk us through our relationship a little bit and how how have we done?
Just kind of walk us through 17, 18, 20, whatever years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think sharing leadership is not some unique idea that we've had. It's something we've been practicing, and we can talk about sources for where this concept has become more and more kind of conscious and intentional for us. But, we started out our relationship. Tell me if I just start to go way too far off track here, but
sounds good.
I feel like we started off our relationship not really realizing that we were sharing leadership, but we were definitely sharing responsibility for our relationship and wanting our relationship to be good for both of us and a place where both of us can grow and develop. We really saw relationship as a path early on, as a path to fully know ourselves, fully become ourselves, to realize the experience of love in all its forms. Like, we really felt strongly about just the power of deep, connected partnership.
Yeah, big time.
And so that kind of shared appreciation, understanding for partnership, and then eventually for marriage, really, I think, helped us consider each other very deeply in this relationship.
Yeah.
And to want to be whatever we were up to here, however we were doing things, we really wanted both of us to be invested in that, a yes to that. It had to work for both of us.
Yeah, because we weren't about to get married and get divorced, and just we had to kind of get really on board with defining marriage on our terms.
Yeah, to back up even further, we were people who didn't really want to get married, hadn't wanted to get married.
Yeah, it just didn't look good out in the world.
It didn't look good. Both of us in our 20s and early 30s were but when we met, we were both like, yeah, all these married people seem kind of miserable or uninspired or unfulfilled or like not having fun anymore. So we were both like,
fake smiles.
What happens when you get married and why does it just seem to like not be good for the relationship? And so we were already asking those questions. And when we decided to get married, we really were committed to, we saw the benefit of really committing to each other in that way, like sort of closing all the exits.
Mm-hmm.
And
yikes.
Yikes.
For me.
Totally. For me too.
Mm-hmm.
But I was more willing maybe in the beginning. That's another story, which we'll tell sometime. But yeah, there was this benefit to closing the exits, but also it's like this, we had to find a way that we both were into and that was fun for us. That was creative, co-created. We just started out that way.
Yeah.
That's just what made sense.
Yeah, we weren't like sleepy going into marriage.
No.
We were very eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
we want to do this right for us. Not like, we don't want to toe the party line of marriage and just be like, okay, I guess this is what you do in life. We were like, no.
Yeah, it had to make sense for us and who we were. And we felt really entitled to co-create something that was uniquely ours. And it's interesting because that's what we still encourage couples to do.
Totally. You gotta do that.
We've learned so much and studied with lots of people that are amazing. And it still comes back to this relationship has to be good for both of you. And it's a co-created experience by choice. So why not make it everything you want it to be? And, learn who you are along the way and learn a ton about human beings and yourselves and each other. And like, it's just a great petri dish for massive learning.
Petri dish and crucible.
It's all of it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important to just set up that like, that's just kind of who we were and how we were doing it. And then when we started to become even more intentional, as we had kids and as we were learning, gosh, we got to just continue to get better at each other, at our relationship. We have to get more efficient at repair. That was a huge turning point. Because once we had 2 little kids, it was like, you can't take a day to go hike and like think about what you're upset about. Like you got to figure it out in 5 minutes because who wants to be miserable taking care of little kids? I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And if we weren't connected, it was way less fun. So anyway, lots of stages. And then now, there's training I've had and learning training you've had, working with couples, and sharing leadership is like this term that really, really to us encompasses this idea of making sure the relationship is really good for both of you. And there's more we can say about that. Yeah.
And we just went through different phases like you will go through in your partnership, where you don't have kids and then maybe you have kids, or you're dating and then you get married and then you buy a house, or one of you starts a business, or one of you sells a business, or you're both running businesses, or you're both inside one business.
Right.
And you add kids to that. It's challenging. And we're sort of saying, how do you love each other and co-lead an awesome life? How do you do that well? And there's a practice we want to introduce you to here in a moment, a way of being, a way of operating in your relationship that we think is going to help you. Mm-hmm. And this has come from lots of mistakes, so many lessons, and lots of awesomeness, what works and what hasn't worked for us, and with all the couples we see.
Yeah, and with all the training we've done as well. And really, I think the most experienced and research-based modalities in the couple space align with this. So it's you'll hear this from many different perspectives in different ways, but saying something similar. Yeah.
Do you want to say what it is, or do you need to? Should we talk more about how we got here?
Was there more you wanted to say?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, let's dive in.
Yeah. Well, let me back it up.
Okay.
There's one step here, which is we were evolving our relationship along the way. We were trying to get better at repair was one of our big things over the years. Like you said, we had to get more efficient because we were slow.
Yeah.
And once kids happened, we were like, we can't go on disconnected for days. We've got to like figure this out like now.
Right. In the moment.
Yeah. Because if you haven't noticed with your teams at work or at home, your partner or your family, when you're disconnected, the day is harder. Everything seems harder and more like a weight, and you feel more lonely, like on the journey when you're disconnected from your significant other or yourself. And it's just harder, Yeah. So we experience that, of course, and still do at times. And we work to always, how do we get better at this?
Yeah.
How do we communicate better through the conflict repair process? And Ellen started studying with Stan Tech many years ago and started learning a lot about secure functioning and secure attachment and just so many things.
Yeah. It just helps kind of crystallize and clarify so much that makes sense. Yeah.
And so we're really into that model from Stan, the lens of treating our adult partnership as a detachment relationship. It's one of the most significant relationships we have in life.
Yeah.
How do we behave in a way that both nervous systems are happy and functioning well? And then my friend Krista introduced me to this guy, Lloyd Fickett. I interviewed him on my podcast many years ago, and he just introduced us to me to a concept called standing for us. And then I morphed it and I put it in my book with giving Lloyd credit. He runs a business called The Collaborative Way, which I thought was really cool.
Totally.
All about how do you collaborate well, which is what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And so I came up with this term standing for three, which essentially means standing for me, Ellen, and the relationship. Those are three sort of entities. And then Ellen would, in her practice, would say, I'm standing for myself, Ellen, and Jayson, and the relationship.
And what does standing for mean to you? Yeah,
it's kind of like a simple way is I've got my back, your back, and our back. That's like a kind of a slangy way to say it. Standing is, it feels just really something like feels strengthening about it, like strong. Like I'm taking a stand for the best version of you, and you just being, doing what you want for yourself that's good for you in your life. You're pursuing your goals and dreams and being true to yourself. I care about that. I care about your success and your fulfillment. So I'm taking a stand for that. How would you say it?
Well, I just want to pause there for a second because I think that there's a nuance there that I want to just pull out, which is you do that for me, yes. And you do that most of the time from a place of really understanding me. And because there's this nuance of like, you could kind of stand for me from a place of thinking you know what's best for me.
Yeah. No, I know what's
like,
best for you, Ellen.
You should be this way. And if you were this way, it'd be better, Ellen. Or if you did more of this, or because you sometimes have that with me.
Yeah. And
ultimately what we're talking about is you really being able to, understand me, and support what is best for me from my perspective. Also, it doesn't disinclude yours. You might have some great, really, and you have had some awesome feedback for me on things I could, be more of, or let go of more. But there's this ongoing conversation around who are you and who do I see over there? And how do both of those visions come together into something where I just end up feeling really cared about and supported by you?
Yeah.
And not that you never challenge me, because you do, and I want you to. I invite you to do that. But that there is this way in which we can dialogue, and I can be like, it's more like this, or a little bit like, like there is this just ongoing dialogue around who we each are, who we're becoming, what our partner wants for us, what we want for ourselves, and what we want this relationship to be. It's like, it's an ongoing, interesting, super interesting conversation as we move through life.
Yeah.
Right?
And if I have a care and interest and curiosity about Ellen and her world, and I really try to understand her on the regular, it makes standing for her and her choices and what she's up to in her life easier, as opposed to, again, thinking I know best or wanting her to do it my way.
Right. Thinking I should be more like you. Like the more you understand me, you're like, oh, for you, it's more like this. And you're growing in this particular way. Or like again, this is an ongoing conversation. Like I still am asking you like, wait, why are you like that? What is going on when you think that's the best thing to do? Like I'm still trying to be like, okay, that's how it is for you.
And sometimes I don't know.
We're helping each other all the time. You're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing or why. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting.
This is what's cool about partnership is she can help me understand myself better because I'm like, think I know, or I'm kind of clueless. And
right. Or we just think our way is like the right way or the only way. Anyway, there's a lot to this. And I just wanted to pause there because I'm like, this is where people that like, we're endlessly interesting to each other because you can't, we're always changing and growing. We're always just evolving, and so partners can stay interested in this because it's fascinating. And then how you move forward together in a way that's good for both of you becomes really creative. Yeah.
So let me back to standing for myself. What does that mean? Well, a lot of male entrepreneurs, I'm going to generalize here, are very good at standing for themselves. Like, well, this is what I want, and these are my goals, and I have a vision here, and this is what I want to do. And
there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah. And I'm leading a team, and I'm stressed out, and me, right? It's just all about myself. And that's hard to be in a relationship with, in case you haven't noticed. And it's very I-centric, very egocentric, very self-centric, which isn't a problem in and of itself, but it's much harder to be that way in a marriage. In a long-term relationship, it's not all about you anymore. And your goals and your dreams and your visions, you're sharing your life with another person. And so I'm like, oh, I'm standing for myself, and God, I've got to also stand for you, which means if I'm genuinely doing that, you're going to feel prioritized. You're going to feel cared about. You're going to feel like I got your back. You're going to feel like it's not all about me. And you're going to feel like, oh, we're a team here.
Yeah, we're moving through life together.
Yeah, because
we're both a yes to
her
this.
Success is my success. You know, it's like a team. Think of a sports team. If one person is just thinking about themselves all day long, they're going to be kicked off the team. Right. You know, in a team sport, you got to pass the ball. Everybody has a role and a part, and like
you got to support other people in being successful.
Yeah,
like
right. And in basketball or something, sometimes the most like the Michael Jordans are like, oh well, that guy's really self-centric, of course. Yeah, but his whole team understood their role in the team's success, which had to do with handing him the ball a lot because he was the best shooter, right?
Right.
But the guy who passed him the ball, like Steve Kerr or whoever it was, he had an amazing role. And he was standing for himself. Like, I'm very good at passing the ball. Like, I'm
at
amazing.
At the right time, in the best
right time,
way.
To the right guy, in the right place. So a band, there's so many metaphors we could use around team.
And music.
Like, when you have to sync up with someone, it's not all about you anymore. If it is... If you think this is too hard, I always tell people, then don't get married. Go do your own fucking thing. Be single. Yeah. And go live your life and do whatever the fuck you want.
But a lot of people do get here and start to feel they really struggle with this, right? Like let's take just that couple, right? Where there's like, I think you described it as a man having like just a lot of focus on his career and his time at work and his role at work, and you know, how stressed he is about that and all the things he needs for that. And then, like people can start to see the relationship as like holding them back or getting in the way of their individual pursuits.
Yeah.
And in a way, it does.
Say more about that.
Like I think of how if I was single, my career would probably look really different.
Completely.
Than if I wasn't sharing life with you and with two kids.
Yeah, you could go faster. You wouldn't have to check in.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to
I could
share
travel
anything.
a ton. And we could have set it up so that I could do all that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that wasn't where our shared vision went, you know? But I'm just thinking about how there is a truth to when you, like you're saying, when you do join up with someone and say, we're going to share life together and this relationship's going to be like the center of our world in a way, because that's us being together is a primary aspect of our life now. Like you've got to be able to collaborate on what that looks like. And some of your individual pursuits, they shouldn't like go away if they're still meaningful to you, but they've got to be folded into this bigger picture, this bigger, more complex landscape of another person. And then as children come in, it's like, now we have this huge creative project,
right,
of raising humans. Like, how do we do all the things we want to do and do that well? And
and a lot of couples, just to speak to that, will fall into, I don't know how we do that well. You just handle it.
Yes.
And we'll do a future episode on sort of divide and conquer and the pros and cons of that. But a lot of these entrepreneurial situations fall into this, you do that and I'll do this, which can work. And we're talking about something more nuanced here than just a division of labor or roles.
Yes. There's a ongoing conversation and shared understanding and appreciation for what each of you is holding, working on, how you're kind of encompassing this huge landscape of both of our lives and maybe now children's lives. How are we both holding that and staying, even though, yes, we're not going to do, like, shared leadership isn't about, we have the same roles and do the same work in the same amount. It's more about being very integrated in understanding each other's lives and really feeling like we're holding this together, even though you might be at your job all day and I'm at my job, whatever that is. Or, definitely with children, it's like, these are both our kids. So that's like clearly, in my world, clearly a shared endeavor. And yes, you still have to figure out who's doing what and how we're making this all work. But like work, if you're running your own businesses or you're in the same business, that those responsibilities and roles, are different according to that.
Totally. So we've got standing for myself, right? Prioritizing myself and my life and my dreams and goals, while simultaneously standing for my partner and their dreams and goals and success. That alone is very challenging for people, because a lot of us might have grown up in families where it was all about me, or
it was all about everybody else.
It was all about everybody else. And this is what people do: is they get into a marriage or a long-term relationship, and they tend to tip to one side or the other. They tend to be very self-focused, or they tend to be very other-focused. And the other-focused, we should speak to that for a minute, because we just spoke to the kind of self-focused guy. Yeah. But an other-focused person is prioritizing the other person's success. Like, hey, I want you to be successful. I'm here for you. I'm just going to show up for you at the expense of myself. And this is like, you could call it codependency in some circles. It doesn't really matter. What matters is it's out of balance. You're leaving yourself behind to try to support your partner.
And a lot, we see marriages where 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, resentments about that start coming out. Yeah. Like, hey, I supported you in your years. Goals and your dreams all those years, and now I want something. It kind of comes out like that versus, the many other ways that could be dealt with earlier on.
Yeah.
But we have, a lot of times this is kind of divided along gender roles. But sometimes it just is who's making more money, regardless of gender. That often becomes what gets centered in a family for economic purposes. And it doesn't, it takes more, you have to really, think a little deeper and think more long-term to make sure that even if that's what you're choosing, that feels like a shared choice.
Yeah. And sidebar here, this can also apply to you. Some of you are in business partnerships and you understand this concept of sharing leadership, by the way. And you might already be practicing this in some ways, in your business with your business partner, or in your marriage with your life partner, or both places. And you probably notice that when you behave this way, you prioritize yourself and the other person at the same time, things go better.
Yeah. Right. It's like I might want something in my business, but I'm partnered with Jayson. And so I'm like, I've got to talk to him about it. I've got to make sure this is good for him too, that he can see the value of this, or support me in taking this risk, and what will that look like, and what are the boundaries around that? I mean, you would have conversation, hopefully, about that.
Yeah.
And we want partners to do that. We want parents to do that. So this shared leadership idea really comes into work, marriage, and parenting.
Yeah, big time. Okay, so we've talked about standing for myself, standing for my partner, and what about standing for the relationship?
What does that mean?
Let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah, and this is something that was a little fuzzy for us, I think, at least for me, somewhere along the line in our partnership. Like, I wasn't thinking, how can I stand for the relationship? I wasn't thinking like
we
that.
were sort of initially like, it was more about you and me, like me being there, supporting you. Yeah, I could see that. And we didn't have, it took us a while to think about, this relationship has to feel like, what kind of relationship are we having? It has to feel good to both of us. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
So say more.
Well, I'll use a metaphor, and I'd love to, we're both going to talk about this differently, potentially to help you find your way of making sense with this. But I often use the metaphor of a boat, and the boat itself is the relationship. And Ellen and I are in the boat, and we're both, if I stand for myself and where I want to go and how fast I want to go and what I want to do, and I also have to stand for her. So I'm like, well, she might want to go slower or in a different direction. And I'm like, wow, we now have two different directions, two different paces, two different ways of doing life. I could make that a big fat problem and want her out of my, quote, my boat. But it's actually our boat. And we're sharing leadership inside that boat about, where are we going to go together?
And how are we going to get there?
And how are we going to get there, given your strengths and weaknesses, and given my strengths and weaknesses? How are we going to do this amazing ride called life? Well, we're going to build a seaworthy vessel called our relationship. That's the boat. And we're going to be really good at attending to the boat. And the boat might get some holes in it. It might need a sail one day, and it might need the sail down another day. And her and I are paying attention to the boat. So we both are tuning in and tracking what's wrong with the boat, what's good about the boat, where the weaknesses and the strengths of the boat are. And then we both put attention and energy into making an awesome boat called our relationship.
I picture a canoe.
Great.
Do you?
No, that's funny. I was picturing a wooden sort of dinghy for some reason out in the middle of the ocean. Like they used to set out the sides of the big boats.
That's not a very seaworthy boat for an ocean.
That's a lot of people's relationships, honey.
Yeah. I love that metaphor because you can really see and feel how it would not work at all if one person is trying to charge a direction in a way, at a pace, with an agenda that doesn't really include their partner. It has to. It's like you said, it's our boat. Like we're both in it. And it has to take care of both of us. And so thinking about your relationship, it's like, what do we want this relationship or this boat in this metaphor to look and feel like? What's going to help us stay safe? What's going to protect us from the elements? What's going to protect us from each other's neurosis and challenges,
trauma histories and
trauma histories? Like, what does that look like? And again, we'll be unpacking that.
Yeah.
But it has a lot to do with us deciding to do things in a way that's sensitive to each other, that's respectful. We can say, hey, that's too fast. Hey, that's not enough. Like, I need a little more from you. I need a little less of that. Like, we've got to be able to communicate well. We've got to be able to repair things quickly. Holes in the boat cannot go unmanaged, So in this metaphor, it really is helpful to think of that. Like, we can't weather injuries, we can't feel disconnected for very long, or else we're just in an eddy now, and
usually one partner often finds themselves the caretaker of the boat, and it's often the woman, not always, who's like actually looking after the boat, which is our relationship. Hey, how are we doing? Let's check in. Where we haven't done our date night. I miss you. And the guy, let's say in this example, is annoyed, and he's so busy, and he's like all about me, myself and I, and he wants to go faster, and he's neglecting his responsibilities in the boat. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, one person often finds themselves really with kind of this burden, what starts to feel like a burden, which creates a resentment about like, why am I the only one paying attention to the boat over here?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of couples also get into trouble, because the busy entrepreneur is, quote, too busy. And and there's the story of the entrepreneur's classic. It's like, no, it's just this quarter. Like after this, I can see some breathing room. Just around the next bend, it's going to get better. Like we're so full of shit.
It's an ongoing fallacy.
Right. Is this sort of, the grass is greener down the road and it will be better down the road. And, okay. And then I'm just going to trust you that that's going to happen. And meanwhile, it doesn't happen. I mean, it does, of course, sometimes, but anyway, I'm trying to illustrate how this becomes problematic if we're both not standing for the relationship.
Yeah. And the relationship, I'm also thinking about how it is vulnerable to being lost sight of, because, now you're in this boat, and let's say you've got kids in the boat, you've got, your business, which needs a lot of attention. You've got all these things that you have to be taken care of, but the container for all of that, the reason for all of that being there is your relationship. And people, I think that they can neglect their relationship and get away with it. And just like, we've just got to parent, and we've got to work, and we've got to figure out life, and we have a lot of logistics, and we're just trying to sleep and exercise, and and the last thing on the list often is our connection, our relationship, which is the whole reason any of this is even going on.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to prioritize that, because it just seems like this thing that shouldn't need prioritization for some reason. We're like, it's like a cultural myth, or like some weird thing we all get hypnotized to, like, it should just function fine. But no way. I mean, and as parents know that too. It's not like you spend a year with your child and then you're good. Like, that's like you're spending 18 years or so in a relationship, developing that, maintaining that, looking after that. And partners, you're doing that for the rest of your life. And it should be a cool part of life. It shouldn't feel like a chore, and it's going to be hard at times, yes, but it's so worth doing. I mean, that's why we do what we do. And
it will feel like a chore if you've neglected it.
Yes.
Because look, think about your own home. If any of you are homeowners, when you neglect your home, literally your house, and if you don't do anything to touch the home, the interior, exterior, all the pipes and all the things, right? And as you know, a homeowner, there's always something to breaking or you need to fix. If you neglect that for years, the home itself is going to get very vulnerable to rats and termites and wasps, and foundations might have a leak. If you just never pay attention to it over many years, it's going to have some issues. And then it's harder to go backwards and fix all those things versus the homeowner along the way who's like, oh, we have a issue in the basement. Let's take care of that right now so it doesn't get worse down the road. Yeah. We find people, of course, that we work with who have neglected their boat, and there's a lot of issues. And so then it does feel hard. It feels like a lot of work until you get it right. Until you're like, actually, let's right the ship here and let's make this thing awesome.
Right. And what is maintaining a good level of operation look like for us? What does that require? What's the reality of that? So that we can feel psyched, so that when we have time together, so we look forward to time together, so that we're like, oh gosh, I'm really I can't wait to hang out with you
Yeah.
later this week, or like, you like you did, and maybe initially in your relationship like that. We want to maintain some connection to that.
Yeah. And so we're all up against our own apathy, our own complacency, the parts of us that want things to be easy, that want a quick fix, that want the shortcut. We're all vulnerable to just kind of checking out here because it's hard. Marriage and long-term relationship, to make it awesome, it can be hard at times, and it's so worth it. I mean, just what Ellen and I are experiencing over here is incredible because we're constantly attending to things. Mm-hmm. And when I have taken my eye off the ball, it's horrible. It's truly horrible.
Yeah.
And then it's a giant cleanup of a mess. Mm-hmm. And we want to help you avoid some of these pitfalls that we see, that we've made, or that we see in the couples we work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So to review, standing for three. And another way to say it is standing for us, standing for the we. But I like three because when we say standing for we, it's like, oh, we're just standing for our relationship. It's like more nuanced to say there's three things here that we're really advocating for: myself, my partner, and the relationship. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be referring, the reason we're recording this in episode 1, essentially, or 2, whatever this is, I think 1 after the trailer, is so that we're going to refer back. If you haven't listened to episode 1, make sure you listen to that episode, because we're going to, we really unpacked it here.
Yes. Yeah. We could even unpack that more with like standing for three could be, I stand for my growth and development, your growth and development, and our relationship's growth and development.
Yeah. Love that.
Which to me, I like that because obviously growth and development's hugely important to us as individuals and as a couple. That's like one of our central values. And then it just speaks to like, there's an evolving process here of who I am and who you are and what our relationship is. It's not there aren't these stagnant, finite, defined entities. These are evolving, growing, changing,
great,
and self-defined ongoingly ideas of who we are and what our relationship is. So there's just a lot of room for continuing to refine and align and make your life, make your work, your family, your relationship more and more of what you want. Because life is coming at us. We can't choose, obviously, the stresses, a lot of the stresses and challenges that come our way. But there's a lot of choice in how we function here and how we relate to stress and life challenges, and how our relationship can be a resource in that.
Amazing. Yeah. And so standing for three, this standing for my growth and development, Ellen's growth and development, and the growth and development of the relationship, is a practice to help us share leadership. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to think of standing for three as this destination necessarily, a summit. We're going to try to get to the summit. And then we have that figured out, and all of a sudden the switch is on and we're just good for life and we can be lazy again. No, it's a daily practice to prioritize myself and my partner and the relationship. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be seasons and chapters where this isn't going very well, or you fall down. Yeah. Like any leader, leaders fall and they fall down because they're forgetting about themselves or another person. And so we're saying, hey, the invitation here is to practice standing for three and introduce this into your partnership so that you can share leadership.
Yeah.
And by sharing leadership, I think the world's going to be a better place, your businesses, your families, versus one person's the leader and one person's the follower. That seems a little odd in a word called partnership.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So our invitation for you is to check in and ask your partner. One way to start doing this is to ask your partner, hey, do you experience me as prioritizing you and our relationship? And myself? Am I practicing that? Or do I do that for you and us? To have a conversation about it. And then secondly, checking in with your partner, like, do we agree that this could be a good idea for us? Like, and even try to argue against it. Like, why wouldn't this be a good idea?
Right.
To share leadership, to stand for you, me, and us growing and developing. Like, maybe even argue that and see if you can come up with something that you can get behind. I would imagine that will be hard to do, but I encourage you to try that. But to consider, is this something that could help us and support us better and have us more inspired here?
Awesome. So that's the invitation here at Love and Leadership. We want you to try that on, okay? And play with it, experiment, talk about it, hash it out, argue against it until you arrive at a place that's like, well, how do we want to operate? How do we want to share leadership?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. That'd be a great conversation.
Cool.
Ongoing conversation.
Ongoing. And we'll always offer an invitation at the end of our episodes here, just so you guys can challenge yourselves, reflect. It might be a journal prompt. It might be like this, a conversation. Okay. Hope you share this with your friends as we get rolling here. I'm really grateful for you, Ellen.
Yeah, it's fun to do.
Yeah. And grateful for you, the listener, for jumping in with us. It's going to be a fun ride.
Thank you.